Is it showtime? All right, there we go. It's showtime, y'all. Showtime. Three signs that you might be neurodivergent. Let's talk about it. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the live stream. Welcome to the daily live stream. My name is Kojo Sarfo. I'm your Hollywood mental health expert. I am checking in from the great state of Alaska. I'm checking in from Juneau, Alaska. We're talking about three signs that you might be neurodivergent. If you happen to be in Juneau, Alaska, I will be at the Devil's Comedy Club in like 30 minutes. Not Comedy Club, the Devil's Club Brewery in 30 minutes for the open mic comedy night show. So come out and see me at the comedy open mic if you are in Juneau, Alaska. If you're not here, do not worry about it because y'all will not get here in time. We're talking about three more signs that you may be neurodivergent. Thank you so much, Brianna or Brian MC. I appreciate you. T checking in from South Africa. Go ahead and use the comment section to let me know where you're checking in from. Savannah21 on Twitch. Our Twitch community is growing. I appreciate you. Shout out to Dapper Dan. Dapper Dan is also one of the comedians who will be performing tonight at the Devil's Club in like 30 minutes. And also, he'll be at the show next week, Friday. There's two comedy shows, one at 6:30 p.m., one at 8:30 p.m. So look out for not only me, but Dapper Dan at the comedy show. Cali in the house. Okay, Indiana in the house. Tennessee in the house. Dublin, Ireland in the house. Houston in the house. We have an international audience. It appears as if we have people from all over the world. Somebody else, CatDoc85 on Twitch. Laurel here from Surf City, North Carolina. Okay, so we have people all over the world who want to know about neurodivergence. And I will not waste y'all's time. If you've been watching on TikTok, I started off dancing and stimming, and I was just having a good time. And y'all were like, can I get the signs that I may be neurodivergent so I can move on with my life? So let's get into it. Let's get into it. Signs that you may be neurodivergent. Number one, you take things literally. You take things literally. Cody Lee on TikTok says, I am a neurodivergent. Nothing wrong with it. I completely agree. There's nothing wrong with being neurodivergent. There's nothing wrong with it. If we live in a world that celebrates neurodiversity, a lot less people will be depressed. You take things literally. What does that mean? Larry Horton on Facebook, I appreciate your support. You take things literally. What does that mean? A person who takes things literally is going to misinterpret things. So this does happen with ADHD, but I think we classically associate this with autism more, right? So an autistic person is likely to struggle with communication because autism means the way that you communicate with the world is a little different from how a neurotypical person would communicate with the world. So because of these differences in communication, you got to receive some type of external support. If you are undiagnosed autistic, by the time you're 7 years old, if we're being honest, you've clocked enough people to know how to fit in socially. You've already started to mask. And by the time you're a full-grown adult, you've masked. You've learned to not take things literally. So if someone says it's raining cats and dogs, when you were a kid, you really thought that it was raining cats and dogs. And after a while, you realize, okay, well, they don't actually mean that. A more subtle example is when you're hanging out with people in the neurotypical world and people say, hey, man, I had such a good time. Yeah, we'll hang out next week. They don't actually mean that we will hang out next week. They're just saying it because it's a nice thing to say. You know, how else would you get out of a conversation? It's just nicer to say, oh, yeah. I'm going to see you next week. Yeah, I'm going to see you next week. Yeah, I'm not going to really see them next week. But if you take things literally and you think that that person's saying, I'll see you next week means that they'll see you next week. Then next week gets here and you call that person up and you're like, hey, I thought we were going to hang out. And that person's like, we just hung out last week. And you're like, yeah, but last week you said we were going to hang out this week. And Lisa Anderson on TikTok says, or I'm going to call you. Exactly. You're on the phone with one of your friends. Y'all talk for 3 hours. You're like, all right, man, I'll call you back. They're not really finna call you back, right? It's just a nice way to get off the phone. Like, hey, uh, man, this is a great conversation. Hey, yeah, we gotta catch up again soon. Yeah, we definitely gotta talk. We definitely have to stay in touch. It's so good hearing from you. I'll call you back. They don't mean that they're gonna call you back like in 5 minutes, but if you take things literally, you'll sit there and say, "All right, now Jeffrey said he was gonna call me back. You waited 2 hours. Jeffrey never called back. You waited 2 weeks. Jeffrey never called back. 2 months go by. Damn, Jeffrey was supposed to call me back. Jeffrey never called back. Jeffrey didn't mean he was going to call you right back, but you thought that he was going to call you back because you took things literally." And Moments of Essence on YouTube says, so neurotypicals say things they don't mean. Yes, neurotypicals say things that they don't mean. When somebody asks you, hey, how was your day? They don't want you to tell the truth. Nobody really wants that. If somebody asks you, hey, man, how was your day? They're expecting you to say, I know, just another day in paradise. It's been a good one. I'm having a good one. The whole time you're dealing with grief, you're dealing with job loss, you're dealing with parent issues, you're dealing with issues with your kids. You just started new medications. The doctor put you on Lexapro and you can't feel things. You're having a hard time refilling. You're behind on a couple of bills. Like, you have real life problems. But if you tell people the truth, they're gonna be like, man, like, I just asked you how you were. I didn't really mean for you to tell me how you're doing. You're just supposed to like say cool. You're not supposed to tell me like your actual problems. Like, what the hell's wrong with you? You have to go through a couple of embarrassing situations where you're like, damn, like, I guess when people ask you how you're doing, there's only two acceptable answers: fine and good. What type of a world do we live in? Yeah. And Dream Girl says, why you lie to people? You're going to call them. Right. And look, it'd be helpful if the person on the phone would say, hey, man, like, if Jeffrey just said, hey, Kojo, it was cool hearing from you, man. I see you doing your thing in Los Angeles. I see you traveling. I'm so happy for you. I'm a little busy, so we're not going to talk for a minute, but I'll catch up with you in a couple of weeks. I'll look to call you next month. I'll set a reminder. But yeah, I got to get back to life. I'm busy too, so I'm not going to be offended. I'm busy too. I don't have to talk to friends every day. And that's one thing about neurodivergent friendships. You can go a year and a half without talking to one of your closest friends. But the moment you pick up the phone, call them, it's like y'all were just hanging out last week. Like, man, like, as if I just saw you. All right, because whenever y'all talk about things, like, you're actually talking about things. You're not just talking just to talk. You're actually talking about things that have substance. You're getting to know the person. So you're not just like talking to hear yourself talk. Like, you're actually talking about things that you care about. And the things that you say, you actually mean it. What a concept, huh? What a concept. Eva Marie on Facebook, I'm happy you cut the live stream. I'm happy you cut the live stream. Happy to have you here. And Emily says, so I shouldn't be trauma dumping. In the neurotypical world, nah, you shouldn't be trauma dumping because neurotypicals don't want to hear that. Now, your neurodivergent friends do want to hear that. Annie, all right, so this live stream, I told y'all yesterday I was trying to get some structure in the live stream. So I said that after the 30-minute mark is when I'll take questions, but because I'm pressed for time today, I'll just take questions in the middle of whatever I'm doing. So somebody asked a really good question and said, is getting a diagnosis worth it? I'm 46. I have ADHD diagnosis. I'm 90% sure I'm also on the spectrum. Yes, getting a diagnosis is always worth it, because instead of you blaming yourself for things that are symptoms of your neurodivergence, you can now say, oh, I have ADHD. This is why it takes me a while to get to places on time. This is why I interrupt people. This is why, okay, all right, cool. So I'm not a lazy person. I'm not a bad friend. I'm not an awful human being. It's an explanation. It's not an excuse. It's just an explanation. And that's what a diagnosis is. It's a word or a group of words or a term that better explains the majority of the symptoms that you exhibit. So now you don't have to be too hard on yourself. So getting a diagnosis can make you feel better without even taking a single pill. So that's why you want to get a diagnosis. All right, number two. Oh, did someone just move behind me? I know I'm not just hearing things. Like I felt like something moved behind me. It definitely did. Number two, signs that you may be neurodivergent. Number two, you don't do well with rejection. I think the obvious rebuttal to this is, who does well with rejection? So in the beginning, nobody does well with rejection. You have to train yourself to deal with rejection. And if you're neurodivergent and you're pretty good at dealing with rejection, you probably have to put twice the work in. You really have to work to regulate your emotions. You put 2 to 3 times the work in to get there. I think I'm pretty decent at dealing with rejection now, but that comes from me being an entrepreneur. It comes from me being a content creator and posting many videos a day, tons of videos a week, putting out different versions of yourself. But prior to that, and even now, it's still difficult to deal with rejection, because when you feel that rejection, it takes you back to that inner child, that little kid who, was trying to dance in second grade, and then people looked at you and they laughed at you. Then you fell down and you never danced again. Or that kid who tried to sing at a talent show in fourth grade and it went awful, and you just gave up on your dream of becoming a singer. When you feel rejection, it takes you back to those formative years, and you're like, man, I didn't like how that felt. I don't want to go back there. So you avoid doing certain things that have a pretty high chance of failure. Interestingly enough, failure is the prerequisite for success. So if we're not putting ourselves in positions to fail, we're not going to fail. Which is good if you don't like rejection, but then we're not going to succeed because we're not failing. That's a key in core neurodivergent struggle. This aversion to rejection. And Katia says, wish my family was attuned to how I move differently and supported my authentic self. Hey, look, it's hard to put your authentic self out there. Leilani, how are you? Chris Hall says, I sung in talent show in fourth grade. You got the video? Can we see it? Can we see it? Since all of us are trying to be ourselves here. Actually, not trying. I don't like the word trying. Since all of us are doing our best to be ourselves. Yeah, let's take our try. Let's take our try. Can I ask you a serious question? Ask any question. Normally, like I said, we would ask questions after the 30-minute mark, but because I'm pressed for time today, just ask your questions, and I'm gonna do my best to slide them in while I give you all the signs that you may be neurodivergent. And like I said, the second sign was the struggles with rejection. There's a concept. This is called rejection sensitive dysphoria, or rejection sensitivity. If you struggle with RSD, a key place in your life that is going to be challenged to navigate is relationships. And speaking of relationships, I did get my girl yoga yesterday. It was hard. Having ADHD and being at the grocery store is difficult, because she said non-fat Greek yogurt, but then there were 3 different types of yogurt. There was a non-fat Greek yogurt, but there was another like Chobani, sugar-free. I was like, damn, all these damn yogurts. Like, why isn't there just one yogurt? Why gotta navigate through all these different yogurts? Like, what in the world? But she got her yogurt, so we're good there. We are good there. Can autism and ADHD be misdiagnosed as bipolar? It most definitely could, and it most definitely is. And Chopper 346, how do you navigate intimate relationships in public spotlight? What advice would you give? I'll answer that question right after I finish my point on rejection. But that's a fantastic question. So going back to rejection, if you really struggle with RSD and rejection is going to be difficult for you in relationships. What's going to happen is when you have an argument with your partner where y'all don't see eye to eye on something, you could take that as attack on you as a person. So if you have different conflict resolution styles and you don't understand the other person because neurodivergence impedes communication at times, y'all gonna go back and forth and y'all on the same team, but y'all are acting as if it's you versus them, but it's y'all versus the issue. So dealing with rejection and understanding that you have a problem with rejection is key. Because if you know this, then you can take a step back and say, okay, all right, I feel threatened right now. I feel disrespected. I feel rejected. I feel as if whatever entity person doesn't want me. So let me take a beat, pause, and assess how I feel about this situation and make sure that I can move in a way that allows me to express myself and let that person know why I feel hurt, why I feel this type of pain. So yeah, that's a neurodivergent thing, struggling with rejection, autism, and ADHD, and dyslexia. If you've had a hard time reading, it's going to be difficult for you to do things that require you to articulate yourself in public. All right. So, how do you navigate intimate relationships in the public spotlight? What advice would you give? Oh my goodness, this is kind of an off-topic question, but I don't know what value this would be to y'all. But I'll just answer, and hopefully y'all can extract some value from it. If you are a public figure, you know that, or you should know that it comes with the loss of privacy. So by virtue of what I do for a living, I'm going to lose some privacy. People are going to be Googling to see, who's your girlfriend, who's your wife, who are your parents, who are your friends, where you live, things like that. And it can feel, it can make you feel anxious because I don't think that's a normal thing. It's not a normal thing to be a public figure and for people to watch like your videos or for people to know you like that. Because it's a lopsided thing. Like a lot of y'all who really watch my content, like y'all know me. And if you're a moderator or if you're like a recurring person, then yeah, I kind of know you, but there's so many people who know you way more than you know them. So people tend to put you on a pedestal, right? So people feel strongly about you. So when you're online, people, I don't read comments anymore. I'm not able to do that. It's just not good for my mental health. I've had to figure out different things for me to do so that way I can have a sustainable career as a content creator. But for whoever I'm dating, I know I'm a good person and I think I'm a cool person. And for the longest, I wasn't sure if I would date myself because like I'm out here making these videos with different beautiful women in Los Angeles. So if I'm dating somebody, it's easy for that person to be like, oh well, like he looks faithful. He looks like he's doing all the right things, but he's around so many beautiful women. What if he gets tempted? What if he does like what if he cheats on me? Or there's a lot of concerns that you can have, or at least for me that I could have if I'm dating somebody. And in my current relationship right now, yeah, no, we do post videos together, but I always double check um, with her about everything. I'm overly cautious because it takes a while to get used to being perceived by a lot of people. It's not natural. I don't think it will ever be natural. And like I have experience, like it's been 5 years since I first like started getting a lot of followers. So I've had time, my brain has had time to like finally adjust to like being notable or being famous or whatever. But I just know that I gotta take my time and like I gotta ask my girlfriend things and just go slow and make sure that I'm doing things because I want to do those things, not just doing it for just cause. And yeah, I've learned the hard way. If y'all have followed me, for some of y'all, I don't know if Ayla's watching. Ayla on TikTok. Ayla's the moderator. I don't know if Ayla's here, but Ayla's been on my live streams for 5 years. So she see me go from working in Virginia, the girl I was dating at that time, to breaking up with her. And then at one point I was dating this cheerleader on the Suns, and I was always going to Arizona. Arizona was nice. We were posting content and, like life kind of happened fast for me. So I had, like I definitely made mistakes, but I've had time to adjust. But the key, I say all that to say that if you're gonna date somebody and you're in any type of public limelight, prioritize that person over, the people who admire you online, because people like you online because you do a certain thing. Like I make these videos, so it's like, oh, like I love your content. Thank you for doing what you do. But the person that you're with, they like you for who you are. They actually know you. They know about the dirty things that you don't want to talk about online, and like they know how dirty your draws are. So you have to give that person um, grace and make them a priority. I hope that brings value to somebody. Do did any of your exes reach out to you after getting famous? Yeah, a couple of them have. Uh, I don't want to get too sidetracked, but maybe that's a story for another day. But a couple of them have. A couple of them have. Jessica Mueller on Facebook says, I stopped dating, had to learn how to navigate my ADHD alone before I could try to date again. Relationships were hard, and I was always too much for anyone. Now, with medicine and learning to control things a little bit, I am now talking to someone new. Jessica, I'm so happy for you. I'm so happy for you. And that's the cool thing about the ADHD meds. I tell people all the time, ADHD is the most treatable psychiatric condition. And the ADHD meds, I think, are the most effective in all of psychiatry. When somebody is getting antidepressant, I have to say, hey, give this thing 2 to 4 weeks, maybe 3 weeks before like you really see an effect. You give somebody ADHD medication, you expect to see an effect same day. Like that's pretty cool. That's really cool, I think. Golden, Mia, and I appreciate you. Thank you so much. What did your exes want when they come? No, I mean, like I'll never talk bad about anybody I dated before in the past. I have love for anybody I've dated, and I mean, not everything is all positive, but I'll just never slander somebody that I dated, um, because like they don't ask to be, put on blood in front of the world. So, I mean, everybody that I dated, I learned something from them, and I'd like to believe that they learned something from me. I'm a teacher. I'm an educator, so I gotta educate. I gotta educate people. uh, the third sign that you may be neurodivergent is you struggle with demand avoidance. But before that, Ashley Nicole asked a really good question. How do you maintain achieving a high interest project when you become bored with it? Well, actually, the key is to not let that thing become boring. As best as you can, don't let that thing become boring. And even when it does, like the luster fades away and you're no longer motivated by this task or this, project, see if you can make a little progress on it. Because sometimes when you push through, you're like, oh, I did really want to do this podcast thing. I did want to take up painting or guitar, but there's ebbs and flows. Sometimes you're just not interested in a certain thing, and other times you get hyper fixated on that particular thing. Leilani, you're making me laugh, Leilani. Yeah, I gotta put the mask on, because I'm still Dr. Kodo, so sometimes I'm like, hold about, I can't actually be who I am for real. we need the mask sometimes, but you have to be able to, distinguish between y'all great, y'all crazy in the comments. I love y'all. Distinguish between when you gotta be like versus when you can be you. Brittany, I would argue that there's a high prevalence of ADHD amongst doctors, especially if you work in the ED or anybody who works in a psych hospital and you can manage all those different things at one time. Yeah, could be some neurodivergence there. All right, so number 3, the third sign that you may be neurodivergent, you struggle with demand avoidance. I think I spoke about this yesterday, but demand avoidance is this concept of you needing autonomy because you know that you need some type of external support as a neurodivergent person. So because you need autonomy, things have to be phrased to you in a certain way. This is why if you've ever worked at a treatment center, if you've ever worked with autistic kids, they'll tell you to not tell those kids no. And not that you give everything to those kids, but you don't want to say no. And at first glance, it looks as if those kids want special treatment. Like, oh, just because you're autistic, you think you should get preferential treatment, and that's not what it is. The way things are phrased are important, because this is an individual who has been and still is fighting for their autonomy. And Tropper 346, you asked the question: would you ever see someone casually or oh, I accidentally hit invite? I didn't mean to invite somebody to the live stream. Would you ever see someone casually or date someone long term? At this point in my life, I'm an unk. I got back pain. Like, if I'm dating somebody, then the goal is to marry them, put 5-6 babies in their stomach, and then move to Tennessee and live on the farm. That's the goal right there. But anyway, back to demand avoidance. Autistic individuals, and also those of us who have ADHD, we're in a constant fight for our autonomy. So if you tell us certain things like, oh, you have to go do this, you have to, file your taxes, and you ought to file your taxes, but you don't have to file your taxes. I mean, you can choose to just deal with the legal system, but it's important for us to know that we don't have to do something. Like, we ought to do it, but you don't have to do it. Like, nobody's like putting a gun to your head and saying, oh, you got to file your taxes. You have to get it done by April 15th, but you don't have to file your taxes. And recognizing and realizing that you don't have to file your taxes, but it's probably a good idea to do so. That will give you a lot of peace, because the way things are phrased are very important. I'm not against ADHD meds. I be on those meds. What you talking about? Catherine said, I'm starting to think demand avoidance is partially because I'm processing and you're interrupting. Could be. And those of us who are neurodivergent, we're in this constant fight for control. Like, we just want control over a lot of things in our lives. It's fairly difficult for a good portion of neurodivergent people to work for somebody else, because just the way things are phrased is like, I don't like how you're talking to me right now. Like, I don't like how you're talking to me. And that person probably saying things in the most kindest way that they can say it, but maybe their tone or just the way that it was phrased is like, damn, like, I actually, nah, like, you're making it seem like I gotta do this thing. I don't like, I don't want to go to jail. I'll file my taxes, but don't make it seem like I have to, right? Because our whole life we had to do things. We had to show up at a certain time. We had to do standardized tests, or you wouldn't go to the next grade. We had to learn how to write cursive for 3 months in 5th grade for some random reason, because they told us that if we couldn't learn how to write cursive, we wouldn't go to 6th grade. So they scared us into learning how to write cursive. I hope y'all's experience was like mine. All right. But the way things are phrased are very important, especially to neurodivergent people who are in a constant fight for their autonomy. Jazz says, I didn't like the tone of the text message. Yeah, sometimes people can text you and maybe they omitted a couple of emojis, or they added a certain emoji, or just the way the words are phrased is like, try again tomorrow. You're not talking right. You're not talking right. You're not talking right. Tara, what's up? How you doing? Someone said, so neurodivergents tend to do better in the work segment. Yeah. Most definitely. If you are neurodivergent, you will do a million times better when you're in a work environment where you have a fair amount of autonomy. It doesn't mean that you gotta have a like free range to do whatever you want to do, or that you need a boss hovering over you at every second. But when you have the ability to move around, and like, if you tell your boss, hey, I'm gonna come in at 11 o'clock today, if that's okay, like, I'd like to get this day off. I'd like to do. When you have that flexibility, it makes you a better worker. And also neurodivergent people tend to sleep later than neurotypical people. So you may need to go in at 10 o'clock instead of 8 o'clock, right? You may have to adjust a couple of things and do it a certain type of way. Let me see what he's saying. My husband, excuse me, has learned to be general when asking me to do things around the house. He usually asks me if I have the energy for a task that needs to be done. And if I don't, he'll ask if I have the energy for another task that needs to be done. Oh my goodness, Leilani, y'all playing on like y'all are in a whole different universe. Y'all should be teaching a course on like how I need to take y'all's course. My goodness. Love is a show right there. My husband has learned to be general when asking me to do things around the house. He usually asks me if I have the energy for a task that needs to be done. And if I don't, he'll ask if I have the energy for another task that needs to be done. Yeah, that's next level. That's next level right there. That's next level. Somebody, Tara, what's up? I'm just here learning I might be neurodivergent. I hate being told what to do. Well, Tara, you might be. And Chopper346 loves asking these questions about my dating history. Are you my girlfriend's sister? Did you see people casually in your younger days? Yeah. Like that was my goal, you know, like that's every guy's goal when he's like 17, 18. You want to date all the girls in the world. Remember that Lil Wayne song? And we like her, and we like her too, and we like her, and we like her. That was every guy's goal. You know, and then you grow up, and then as you get older, your priorities change, and then you realize that having like, you know, one girl is cooler. You know, having one girl that you like and you can bond with and have intimacy is cooler than, you know, having a whole bunch of girls, unless you're Polynesian and your girl's okay with that, or whatever whatever they say, whatever they say. All right, y'all. I gotta get to the Devil's Club brewery in Alaska for this open mic. If y'all are in Juneau, Alaska, come out. I'd love to see y'all. You're probably not, but if you are, come on out. We have a show there next week, Friday, 2 comedy shows, 6:30 and 8:30 p.m. Once again, I stream live every single day at 9 o'clock New York time, 6 o'clock California time. I gotta head out because I'm running late. So I love y'all. I'll see y'all tomorrow. I feel like this was an abrupt ending, but I love y'all and I will see y'all tomorrow. Peace.